Hello, guys, and welcome to the Legendary Ladies podcast. And today we are talking about the Mean Girls musical movie based on a movie that's based on a musical that is now a movie. We're going to talk about our experiences with Mean Girls. We're going to talk about, obviously, if we like the movie, but we also want to talk about the queerness of Mean Girls because there's a lot of queer ladies in this movie who really want it to be gay. And I'm going to talk about, and we're all going to talk about, if it actually was.
That's a great question.
It's like a Mean Girlception. It's a movie based on a musical, which is based on a movie that's based on a book.
It's very Riverdale.
Yeah, I think. Oh my God, did you say it's very Riverdale? Yeah, I think it's very funny because it sounds like a 30 Rock joke, and it's fun. And obviously, it was written by Tina Fey, all versions, I guess. So yeah, I mean, it does sound like something that like Jenna Maroney would say on 30 Rock. We're like, yes, I mean, Mean Girls, the musical, based on the musical, based on the movie, based on the book.
Now, did you guys know the musical before? Because I have a friend who loves musicals, and I remember when Mean Girls came out, she's like, don't see it. And I was like, oh, that's such a shame. I like that one song that came out, the one that is in the movie, I'd Rather Be Me. And I was like, oh, that was a really fun song. Like, I'm sure the rest is great. And then, I just heard from multiple people, like, don't go see the musical. It's pretty bad. So then when I found out the movie was based on the musical that was pretty bad, I was like, oh, wonder how this movie's going to be. But then Renee Rapp was in it, and I was like, oh, well, maybe it will be fun.
Well, I guess I gotta go.
I gotta go.
Yeah, I've been wanting to actually see the musical for a couple years because obviously I love Mean Girls and I haven't. So I can't weigh in on how it was on Broadway. I will say that like my big critique I think of this movie is that like the music is fine, but sort of instantly forgettable. Like I walked out of the theater and I didn't have any songs in particular stuck in my head. And so tonight before we were recording, I was like doing some stuff around the house and I put on the soundtrack and I was like, yeah, I forgot some of these already. And I saw it on Saturday. So it hasn't been that long. It's been less than a week. And I had forgotten like quite a few of the songs.
No, I very much agree. And one of my biggest comments, we'll talk about it later, is that the lead of this movie is not good. Like she has no memorable songs. I don't think she's a memorable character. And I'll steal this from Phil, but he said like the big reason why, and I didn't really notice it, is because Lindsay Lohan has inner monologue throughout the whole first, the actual movie. So you get in her head.
Yep.
Yeah. And this one you don't. And she's just kind of boring. And I'm like, oh, it's so weird because everyone else is so interesting. And going back to the music, I love Renee Rapp. And I think she got really bad songs. Her saying, I'm Regina George. I'm like, that's so stupid. And I felt bad because she's such a good singer. And I'm like, she didn't even get a good song in there.
I disagree.
Oh, you think she had good music?
Oh, hold please. What is? I'm looking up because
I was gonna say I thought the Regina, like the line about being Regina George, it was like kind of sexy and cool, but again, that's really rough. But then the rest of the song is not actually. I agree with you. It's fine. Correct. It just sort of sits there. The song about someone getting hurt or something that she sings at the Halloween party. I thought that one was good. That one was good because it was kind of playing into her. Yeah, it's kind of playing into her natural like sexiness and her like kind of toughness, and I feel like that worked a lot better than some of her other songs in the movie. But I wouldn't say I remembered. I had a vague recollection of liking that one song, but I wouldn't say that I remembered like the tune of it though.
Yeah,
which is usually a bad sign for a musical.
I had, for being a person who loves musicals, I've not actually seen the musical, mainly because I had heard not great things, and it's very clear from this. I agree. Like the main character, I was like, I would never want to play the main character of this show.
No,
I would either want to play Regina or Janice because they're the only two who have any really good, memorable songs. But I think the things that I did love about the particular songs was when they used the staging to their advantage. Like I thought that the song Someone Gets Hurt, so the party song, was really well choreographed. I really enjoyed the choreography of that. the freeze and the down and the lights and the way that they moved it into like the final kiss at the end. I really, really like that. But we'll get more into the specifics of it later on. But let's go back to like, so I had not seen the musical. Obviously, I'm a millennial. I have seen the original Mean Girls. Kat, you've not seen the musical, or you have seen the musical?
I've heard some songs of the musical before this. I've not seen the musical, but obviously seen Mean Girls.
Yeah. I hadn't even seen the I hadn't even listened to the soundtrack for the musical. So I went in cold, like not knowing any of the songs.
Me too.
But obviously Mean Girls the movie is like a cultural touchstone of my youth.
Yeah.
And so I like came in with it's like it's Mean Girls, so I came in with those expectations. Yeah.
So what were your theater going experiences? Because I watched it today in the theater in San Diego when it was pouring rain, which means rain scares San Diegans. Rain, if you are a San Diegan and you get wet, you will melt. Like, that is just science. And so there was no one not even in my theater. Like, there was no one. I was like, I was like, you know what, I'm going to get popcorn because I don't usually spend money to go to the movies. So if I'm going to do it, let me just go for it.
Yeah,
and
get
I was
the
like,
popcorn.
Bro, I'm going to be honest. Like, how long has that popcorn been sitting there? He goes, it's about 15 minutes. And I kind of looked at him. He's like, I can make you some new ones. I was like, yes, please. Because I know that popcorn's been sitting there for a couple hours.
I think that's when it's even better. With that butter.
A little stale.
Oh, no, not the butter. Like, no. I want a crispy. To his credit, though, his name was like Kavarin, and I'm not kidding. A really cool name. Kavarin literally made me a whole fresh batch of popcorn. It ended up being just for me because nobody else was there, and I was the only one in my theater.
He's probably a little bored, too. Kat, he's like, you know what? Why not?
Yeah, gives me something to do.
Kat, what was your interesting theater going experience?
Yeah, so I was telling this to Morgan, but Amy did not know this, that my friend Julius, my business partner's fiance, was an extra in Mean Girls. So he last year did a lot of extra
I did not know that they filmed this in New Jersey, by the way. So that was like a wild discovery when I saw it in like one of your newsletters.
It was all in New Jersey. And he did Mean Girls. He did a couple of other shows, but Mean Girls, he did Joker too. So we're going to like go see Joker and like have a fun time. So he was like there.
Crazy.
Yeah. So he had a little fun time doing some extra work, and he made all these friends. So they all came together. And we went to see the movie with them, which ended up filling up the whole theater because it was all the extras of a school. So we went to go see the movie with all the extras of Mean Girls.
That's so fun.
That is so fun.
The whole movie is them reacting to see if they saw each other. So when someone shows like, whoa, there he is. Whoa, there. And then there was like maybe 20 other people in the theater who are actually just big Mean Girls fans say, oh my God, they did this. And it was just such a fun movie theater experience because it's just like, the lightness of just having these extras see themselves and, all these friends come together and us as the outsiders of just the supportive friends coming. And it was a really cool experience in that regard. And honestly, I never expected Mean Girls to just have such a rambunctious crowd. And I thought maybe it's just me, but supposedly a lot of people had that for Mean Girls. Like people really wanted to see this movie and like a lot of people reacted to it. So I haven't felt that way since a Marvel movie, and I never thought Mean Girls would be it.
That's funny that you mentioned it because we went to go see it on, I think, Saturday, and we were bummed out because there weren't a lot of show times. There were like 2 show times at night, which is crazy for a movie that like literally just came out. And we went to go to our normal theater, and it was almost sold out. Like the theater was packed, and we were like, okay, let's go to we went to a different theater a little further away where the theater was a little bit more empty. But I mean, I feel like that sort of bodes well for Mean Girls, is like that it had like a packed theater that I had to go to a different movie theater to go to.
Yeah. So let's start with like initial thoughts. What were just your overall general thoughts on the film? Morgan, you first.
Sure. I obviously love the original. I think the musical was really fun. I had a good time watching the movie. I thought Renee Rapp was amazing. I thought she was so good in this movie. And so sexy. I was like, oh my God, Renee Rapp. But Renee, I do declare. But
she is a sexy girl. And aren't you glad you listened to her music and got to know her a little?
I was like, I felt like Renee and I were old friends. Renee. No, she scares me. I don't think she'd be like, no, please, you're too old. Get away from me. But
have you seen her interviews? They're so fun. She's just like, I don't care.
She is wild. She is wild. I love her. But yeah, I think the movie was really fun. I think it worked like a little less well because it was kind of an exact copy of the 2004 version. So like the 20-year. They updated it a little bit to be more.
Well, they don't end as soon. They had like 20 extra minutes, I would say. So because the ends at the bus. Yeah,
but that's because of the songs.
Oh, yeah. That's true. Yeah, it just felt like it had been sort of superficially updated for 2024. There's like TikTok videos, but it didn't feel like the messaging or like the specific ways that people were mean was updated in any way in 20 years.
No one was mean.
Yeah, and I also would say that I think that that I think that losing that voiceover commentary that you have in the original was a huge hit to the movie, because I think that gave it sort of its overarching theme. Because I'm thinking in particular about like the scene where she goes into Regina's bedroom and they all go to the mirror and they're like, I hate my pores. Oh, my eyebrows are weird. And like Katie's character is like, I also hate my body. In the musical, that's kind of how it starts and ends. But in the original movie, Lindsay Lohan's character voices over like, I thought there were only a couple of ways that like your body could be wrong, but I'm finding out that there's all kinds of ways. Like your pores can be too big, your eyes can be too far apart. Like basically she's like, I didn't realize that there were so many different ways that I could be like falling down on being pretty, and I'm discovering that now. And I think losing those like voiceovers and those key moments kind of diluted the message of the movie. I don't feel like the music part of it made up for like losing that framing device.
I agree. That hit me about a third of the way through the film. She was doing one of Katie's like internal monologues, but to Janice and Damien, and that I that's where it struck me. I go, oh, we're not like that's what we're missing. I go, oh, we haven't had that part yet. And I agree. I think that the hardest part was when they had exact dialogue. And as someone who's done musicals that have been done 100,000 times before, it's really hard to take dialogue and make it your own after someone else has made it so iconic.
Sure. So how do and then shows up in the movie.
Yeah, so there was even like that awkward level of connection. Like I was like, can we do either a complete disconnect, or I realized about halfway through, I was like, I think I would rather have this have been a filmed stage musical. You know how they did that with like Ariel, with Little Mermaid. Yeah, Hamilton. Like, I think this would have been better on stage, but filmed. But I understand why they wanted to do it this way. And I do think that
especially because the musical got such bad reviews. I think it'd be like one person watches the
And I think they turned they then relied on what a big budget film could do for some of these group numbers, like the Revenge Party number with one was really fun. Balloons and the colors. That was great. I thought the Someone Gets Hurt, that was also great. I love that they worked right into each other. I thought that was wonderful. There were a lot of really, really good group numbers in this film, and I thought that kind of pizzazz gave so much to it, and I actually genuinely enjoyed it. I did not expect to enjoy it that much. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, I'm reading a book right now. I don't want to go watch a movie. Like,
and are you happy
driving in the rain?
How dare you make me go out in the rain?
How dare you? I'm going to melt. So I overall, I was really impressed. I think the thing impressed compared to what I thought I was going to be, I should say. I think that that Renee Rapp and her songs stood out. I think that Ali's songs as Janet stood out. I did not realize she was so Moana.
Good. She also has such a beautiful, beautiful voice. It's like almost not even fair to have her like sing against anyone else. It's like, well, she's gonna win there.
You're like, well, that's perfect.
And her doing the flagship song of "I'd Rather Be Me" was like, oh, I didn't even know, like, because again, I've never seen the musical, so I always thought the person who did that was the main character. I was like, wait, it's not? That's crazy. It's her.
Yeah.
And obviously I'm glad she did, because she did such a good job. I think the supporting characters, I agree, were so much more like the
Agreed.
I forget who the queer the friend, the guy's name
Damien.
is.
Damien.
Yeah, like he was great. Like he was so funny.
Fun. Yeah.
And not in a way that's like forcibly funny. I think because sometimes in comedies you're like, oh, I feel like I'm laughing because I'm supposed to. But it's like, no, I genuinely had a good time with this character. But yeah, the main character is just so I have nothing. Yeah, I have nothing to say.
I think it's really tough because the main character, like, doesn't have that internal monologue that helps in the original version of the movie. And she doesn't have great songs. But the other thing is that, like, you're sort of because everybody on Earth has basically seen Mean Girls. So you are comparing this against the 2004 version. And I hate to say it, but like you're comparing it against like Lindsay Lohan at like her most powerful. Like this was like when she was like a big star. And
drama queen Herbie, Fully Loaded.
She just really had that charisma on screen in the original Mean Girls. You could see why Rachel McAdams' character would turn around in the lunchroom and see this pretty girl and be like, "Hey, you're really pretty." I don't feel like I saw the same thing in like the stage presence of the girl who plays Katie in this version. It just felt like, you know, that's kind of what the character is supposed to be like, but I feel like her evolution into a plastic was like a little bit less believable.
Well, yeah, and I think that goes back to the idea of what I was saying before, is that no one's mean in this movie. Like, this is Mean Girls, and it's just like Regina George is not that mean. And again, because we don't get the inner monologue, the main character is really not mean, and that's definitely a big disappointment of the movie. It's interesting because when I went into it again, I went in because I was like, I want to support Julius, and also like, why not? Like we go to the movies a lot. Like, of course, I'm gonna go see Mean Girls. But I wasn't expecting anything, and that's why I enjoyed it. Like I had a fun time with it, and I won't say this is the best musical movie in the world, but I was like, oh yeah, it's kind of better than I expected. And if you're looking for a fun time, it's all you can really ask. You don't need Shakespeare, but
I think that you bring up the good point about the main character not being as charismatic as we needed her to be. And I think you're spot on, too, about the fact that she seems to go from Katie to Katie very quickly. Like, all of a sudden, she's putting on the lipstick. I was like, when did this happen? And so that internal monologue that's missing makes it very hard to track her character changes. But I think they leaned really heavily into the idea, like the TikTok videos and how they're all spreading the word via TikTok, and like they're communicating through text, very Gen Z. Like, this is how Gen Z communicates. I think there were opportunities in there, if they were going to go that way, to go even farther.
Yeah.
Like, how cool would it have been if the burn book was a TikTok handle?
I have to be honest, I was shocked that none of the bullying happened through social media, because one of the huge shifts is that you would think that this version of Mean Girls would be an opportunity to update the story to be like, okay, this is the general story about, like, you know, how girls treat each other in high school sometimes, how they can be mean to each other in this very specific way. But like we saw in the 2004 version, like that was the very 2004 way of like these people being mean to each other. But people are mean to each other in a very different way in 2024. Right. And it felt like the movie just didn't want to acknowledge that, didn't really want to go too far from the source material. I think Rachel says Rachel is one of our Patreon supporters. She's in the chat, and she mentioned the 2004 movie is so iconic. It's definitely one of the most quotable movies. And I feel like to keep that structure of the 2004 movie, to keep all those big lines that everybody's waiting for people to say, they just didn't really update the movie for like a 2024 audience. Because like back in 2004, there wasn't even social media.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about part of our conversation for the full podcast was going to be the queerness of Mean Girls, right? The original Mean Girls felt gay because it was these two girls who were like kind of going against each other. Did I really feel like it was that gay? Not really, but in that regard. But we got to see that. Now, obviously, in this one, there's two openly queer people who are playing characters.
Yeah.
One is playing a queer character, another one playing Regina George. Even though every Renee Rapp interview you'll see, Renee is like, yeah, Regina's a lesbian. And I'm like, I don't know if there's much proof of that in the movie, but
the thing is, like, yeah, I would say, so my critique of that would be that she brings Renee Rapp brings like a very sexual energy.
Right. And
She's
also
just a sexy
queer
person.
energy.
Yeah, very queer, like sexy energy to all of her scenes. But there is nothing explicitly queer about Regina's character in this movie. Like Renee Rapp, I'm assuming played her that way because that's kind of how she wanted to play her. And I think that's great. But I don't think that the movie acknowledged that that was happening. Like, she only has romances with men. If anything, the movie goes out of the way to say that, like, she was, like, bullying, Janice, or was her name Janice in this one? I can't remember.
Yeah, it was.
She was bullying Janice's character for being openly queer. So I don't it's a weird read for me because yes, everything that she says and every way that she talks to a woman very, very close to their faces, very sexy, is like, oh yeah, that girl is queer as hell. But then like the movie doesn't acknowledge that any of that is happening.
No, and I think that was so interesting because I remember going into the movie. I did see it the night it premiered, and I was hearing like rumblings that this movie was going to be gay because I guess Renee was saying it. So I was like, yeah, it's going to be gay. I'm so excited. Because like that's such a new read. And
yeah.
I then watched it, and there's so many references in the beginning where it's like, oh yeah, no, it seems like she actually really likes this guy. Which again,
Yeah.
obviously, it'd be like maybe she's bisexual. That's awesome. Bi
That would have been
representation for
awesome.
Regina George. And then I keep waiting and waiting and waiting. I'm like, oh, I guess this is never happening.
And I feel like they could have done that so easily by making her and Janice's friend break up.
Right.
Like a relationship they had that maybe like Regina didn't want to acknowledge. Like maybe Janice was like, okay, like, I really want to take us public. And Regina was like, no, and does something messed up to her. And that's sort of what is the genesis of the friend breakup, which would have been a way to like allow Regina to be a queer character and still do most of the stuff that's in the original movie because they're following that structure so closely. And I feel like they kind of just dropped it. Like the only thing that they made more queer in this version, I think, is that there were maybe more queer characters in the background, but then also that Janice is explicitly queer in this version, where in the original she ends up with the mathlete guy.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting, and obviously I'm happy that Renee is promoting it this way, and that's how she sees it, especially as like her acting perception of the character. Obviously you can perceive the character as you will. But I almost wish that this movie came out 2 years from now or 3 years from now, because Renee is moving up in the stratosphere of stardom, so she I feel like would have more power and more say 2 years from now, be like, well, I want Regina to be gay, and people listen to her.
I agree. Yeah, I really thought we were, especially because I will say, to Renee's credit, that's how she was playing her as queer. She was playing her as like bisexual, and I really thought we were I was like, oh my god, hot Regina, like bisexual Regina George, like what is happening? But the movie doesn't acknowledge that is happening at all. Like the movie's perspective is like, this is kind of the 2004 version. She's mad about this boy. She's cheating with another boy. Like it's hard. I feel like it's hard to read that into the actual text of the movie.
And that's the hard line of what we're going to say, Amy. Yeah.
No, go ahead, Kat.
I was just gonna say that's the hard line of like making a 2004, an adaptation of a 2004 movie of a play that was released in 2018. Because like, yeah, times have changed. But how much can you change in the context?
And it's one of those things where it's like, I wish they had embraced I wish they hadn't been so scared of changing the source material. And I get why you would be, because people love Mean Girls. But also, while watching this movie, even though I was having a lot of fun, I just thought to myself, I feel like, I could have just put it on Mean Girls. Like, this is essentially, there's some music in it, but it's the same movie.
I'll be honest, until you guys really brought it up, I don't know if I would have necessarily perceived Regina in this film as bisexual.
And again, neither did we. We just saw the interviews of Renee Rapp.
That's an incredibly accurate read. I don't think she is supposed to be in this movie.
And so it's challenging me, because if that is something that the actress was really passionate about, then it's a bummer she didn't get the opportunity to express that, or to really get an opportunity to share that in a way that was readable to the general audience. Because there were a lot of queer aspects to the movie. You had Janice actively dating another woman. You had Damien's character, but you had an opportunity with Regina's character. And I do wonder that if part of the reason that it doesn't read is that there's actually no chemistry between Regina and Katie in this movie. I don't know about you guys, but I felt zero chemistry. And there was always a chemistry between Katie and Regina in the original movie. Like, you feel it.
I think there was more chemistry between Janice and Regina, but they didn't have enough scenes with each other.
Yeah, and that's why if I was going to update it and I was going to make the Mean Girl story queer, that would have been the direction I would have went. Not her and Katie, because I agree with you, Amy. I don't think that there was a lot of chemistry there at all, and I think
Katie had no chemistry with anyone, so
correct.
Unfortunately, very true. And that is
very true.
A big difference between the 2004 version, where Rachel McAdams and Lindsay Lohan were both big stars, both had a ton of charisma, both had a lot of on-screen chemistry with each other. And I feel like Renee Rapp just kind of ate that girl for breakfast in this movie. Like, any scene that Renee Rapp was in, I'm not looking at Katie anymore, because like she just kind of fades into the background.
And I think that was the problem in general, is that there was no chemistry between the plastics, and the plastics needs to feel like chemistry. There needs to be this like deep connection between Gretchen, Karen, and Regina. And if you don't have that connection, then Katie flying into their orbit doesn't affect anything. Right now, it just looked like the team was already splintering, and Katie came in and was like, "Hi, I'm the axe. I'm here to finish splitting the wood in half." Like, it didn't fly to me. And I think that part of that was that a lot of the scenes that we wanted to see were overshadowed by the fact that they felt like they had to put the music in, even with the 20 extra long minutes. Like I think three-way phone attack. That scene is vitally important to understanding the chemistry between the plastics, and I
feel like you could update that, like you could do such a fun update of that for 2024. Like, there's with social media, with like, I don't know, like Instagram, like close friend stories or something. Like, you could. There's definitely like fun 2024 ways that you could do that exact same scene, and Amy, what you were just saying reminded me of like another sort of critique I had, which is I feel like Gretchen and Karen are almost sort of non-entities in this movie. They don't really get any character development. Their stories don't seem to really go anywhere. Karen, I think, makes the most of it because her character is just funny. And she has a funny song about being a sexy Halloween person all year long. And that's sort of her dream of the world. And I love that for her. But I feel like Gretchen in particular, it's just, there's really nothing to that character in this musical version. She gets her own song even somehow, and she has no character arc.
Which one's the blonde one again?
The blonde one. I think that was Gretchen.
Because whoever the blonde was, that was interesting to me, because again, we talked about queerness. And again, this is not saying that she had a story by any means, but there was that one song where she's talking about her love for Regina.
Yes.
It goes absolutely nowhere. And you're like, wait, that sounds really gay.
Yeah. It's like, and that's kind of, it's that those moments felt like missed opportunities to me to kind of be like, yeah, like at that time of your life in high school, sometimes girls do have like these really close, sort of really toxic relationships with each other. And those are like heterosexual girls that are just like, oh my God, if my bestie's not here, I'll die. And I can't believe my bestie said this and I hate her now. And like it swings wildly. But I do feel like there's some things that weren't acknowledged in 2004, which is like, maybe you like your bestie a little too much. Maybe there's a reason for that. And I feel like the 2024 version, here's a great way to update that and be like, there's a lot of different nuances in these crazy relationships that you have as a teenage girl. And they just kind of didn't do anything with that.
And her song seemed to be a lot about how no matter what my parents say, I'm never good enough for Regina. And if they're going to put that sort of a song in, like, I'll never be good enough for her, no matter what anyone else says, I wish that they had tapped into a little bit more of what that psyche does to someone. What it's like if the person who you respect and love and admire never respects and loves and admires you back.
Yeah.
Because there would have been some really, really powerful ways for them to modernize it and step into the idea of where that could lead a person, a teenage girl, what that could make them want to do, what kind of if they turn to substances, if they turn to other ways to relieve their pain. Like it was just, this film was just shy of being an adaptation, but at the same time was a direct rewrite. I wish they had picked one or the other. You're either going to be word for word the 2004, or you're going to make a new film about it. Keep one or two iconic lines.
Yeah, I agree.
I like the way they did those jokes with the iconic lines, but we also have to think this is not an adaptation of the Mean Girls 2004. It is an adaptation of the 2018 musical that did try changing things, but it's a direct adaptation to that musical.
That's so funny. That is true, because I was thinking, like, in some ways they took out all of Gretchen's character development and moments from the movie. They took out the three-way call. They took out her line about Caesar, where she goes crazy about
that's right.
Brutus was cuter than Caesar. You know, they took that whole thing out.
Stab Caesar.
Yeah, we should all just stab Caesar. And they took that whole thing, which I didn't even remember until we started talking, that they took all of that out. And so the Gretchen character, when you remove all of that, is almost non-existent. And so like they gave her this song, but I don't think it was a replacement for character development. And also, I think, Amy, to your point, like, that song seemed pretty dark. And then they do no follow-up with her character whatsoever. We just leave her in that place.
Yeah, they mentioned something at the end about how, like, she doesn't care about Regina's thoughts anymore. She's going to value what someone else says about her. But
come on, like, we don't know how she got there.
And you know what I'm realizing now that was also missing from this adaptation that I think would have helped tie things together? The chalkboard with the three big things that they're going to do that they cross out from the original Mean Girls, like the Army of Skanks, Hot Body, and is the other one just Aaron Samuels? I think it's just Aaron Samuels.
I think so. I think the last one is just the boyfriend.
That gives that movie, the OG movie, a really clear flow and mission and goal. And this one, if you didn't know that was the goal, I don't know if you would have been able to follow what they were doing, or that it was intentional as opposed to just accidental mayhem, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think it does.
One thing you brought up earlier was the idea of having the iconic jokes in here, but like, how do you do that for a new modern lens? And that's something I honestly applaud them of doing, because how do you remake a comedy, right? You already know the punchline. And I think they did a pretty good job at changing the punchline where it needed to be changed. Like a really great example is she doesn't even go here. They extended to the joke a little bit to actually make her somewhat of a character. So I was like, oh, that's kind of fun.
That. Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, I think they did. And again, they extended that too. And I think that's why I give a little leeway to this movie, because it's like, it's a hard challenge to make remakes in general. And how do you do it differently? And again, does it reinvent the wheel? No. But also, and I know you guys feel a little differently, I like Mean Girls, but it's almost one of those movies I've seen too many times where I'm like, I don't know if I need to see it again. So it's not one of my favorite movies of all time, but I like it.
How dare?
I
know. How dare?
I was trying to do the math to figure out like how old Lindsay Lohan was when she like filmed that movie. Because I was like, oh my God, I should know because this is my fun fact. I think I told it on Supergirl Radio. Lindsay Lohan and I are the exact same age. She was born on the same day of the same year. So I always know how old Lindsay Lohan is. So I was like, that movie came out when I was a senior in high school and I was 17. So she must have been 17.
That's wild.
So I did them because I looked it up on a, like, I was like, how old was Lindsay Lohan in Mean Girls? And there were articles that were like, she was 18. And I was like, no, she wasn't, because I wasn't 18
yet. That's like me and the Harry Potter kids as they're filming the movies. I'm almost I stay with Daniel Radcliffe's age during all the films as they come out.
That's so
for the
fun.
most part. It lessens towards the very, very end. But for those first few years, when he is 11 in the movies, I am 11 watching it. When he is 13 in the movies, I'm 13 watching it. Or like I stayed his age, I mean. So
yeah.
It was weird but fun. But yeah, I think there is, like, it is a challenge to, how do you take the line, her hair is full of secrets? How do you take like all those big iconic lines and try to make them your own, but also not make them your own?
Right.
Like,
because they're iconic.
Yeah.
Because they're iconic. It is a big challenge. And so, I mean, overall,
and how do you retell a joke? That's not funny either.
That is like a huge challenge because because I noticed that even with the for you, Glenn Coco, like obviously you needed the Glenn Coco's line. It's a Mean Girls movie. How do you not have the Glenn Coco line? But also like it wasn't as funny as some of the more original jokes that they put in here. And I was like, I think it's because, I was waiting for that joke to come, and it's not funny if you are waiting for it and you know it's going to happen. Like part of humor is surprise, and like you just don't get that if you're waiting for every line to come out. So I do respect that like translating something is tough. Like yes, and especially a comedy. I feel like drama might be a little bit easier,
and even comedy, that's hard. Look at comics and their adaptations.
So true, yeah.
And I think realistically, like, it's challenging for us in this world where we really want to have more original content to see something that's being done over and over again. Like, there's so many remakes and so many adaptations of adaptations of adaptations, and then you just want something unique. You want something that's gonna and you kind of just want something to stop being that source material. You just want it to be original for once, but those don't always sell.
I was actually reading an article today about like some of the HBO, and actually it's just Max now, decisions about some of the shows that got canceled, like Our Flag Means Death and Julia, and like I think there was another one. Maybe like Rapp shit got canceled. And in the article, it was like, HBO is thinking about going into when they're developing, or Max is thinking about developing more properties based on IP, like the new the Harry Potter series and like the Penguin series. And I was just like, I felt like a small part of me die. I was like, no.
Like, what do you mean more?
I know it's all I can find out there now is IP stuff, which I used to be like, oh great, cool, fun comic stuff, and now I'm like, it was nice when it was mixed in with other stuff, and now it's all there is just like everything has to be tied to some existing IP to get made.
I think I just want something to stay in the way that I imagine it, envision it, or see it for the first time. So prime example, there's a book series that I really love. You guys have heard me talk about it before. Theoretically, Hulu is in production for A Court of Thorns and Roses. And I think I'm adamantly going to refuse to watch it because the characters in my head, I won't even listen to the dramatized version of it because the voices of these characters in my head, nothing can do justice to that. And I think that that's a challenge with us specifically, who are these highly creative people who think in broad cinematic terms. Like, I mean, I don't know how you two read books, but I read books I read books seeing the like I am cinematically in it. feel, I hear, I listen. I'm not smelling things, but I feel like whenever they write, he smelled of cedar and pine, or pine and snow, or whatever the fuck they smell like. They always smell like something. They always smell like a tree and a landscape. It's
the handsome men always smell like trees.
Snow and pine, or desert and cedar. That's the thing. That's the joke, is that all the men smell like a landscape and a type of tree.
That's so funny. It's like going in like Bath and Body Works, and all the man scents. When I'm trying to get Mike a soap for his bathroom, it's all like mahogany leather, and I'm like, can't men just be normal for a second?
That's
can't
so
get you
true,
lemon
though.
soap. Yes, I saw one bar of soap that was like, smells like naval accomplishment or something like that. Like, smells like naval victory, and I was like, men need to be stopped.
But all this is to say, like, I feel like there's just so much of me that wants to hoard and keep this thing that I have created based on the first appearance of it. Like, the first way that it showed in my brain, that is how I want to remember it. And so it's hard to watch something like this and be like, okay, you got to watch it. It's got to be unique, but you also can't be too, attached to the way that they did it back then, because this is different now. And so it's just one of those things where I think because we're getting so saturated with this sort of content, that it makes it difficult for us to be able to enjoy it as it might have been 10 years ago. I think 10 years ago, even like 10, 15 years ago, the amount of content that we get out there that is related to an IP, or that is a remake or a sequel, is nowhere near what we have right now. And at that point it was novel. Now it's just so common that it's hard for us to embrace it. And quite frankly, it's so easy for everyone. Every single person who saw this Mean Girls had access to the 2004 Mean Girls, but in 2004 and have probably seen it.
But people want to relive it too because of the nostalgia. So they're like, well, I just want nostalgia because I'm used to it. There's a reason why they're doing it.
I feel like it's one of the biggest, like, most quoted movies out there. I think, everybody has seen it's iconic. Yeah, it really is iconic. Everyone's seen it. Everyone quotes the lines. They have Mean Girls Day on the day that the boy asked her what day it is.
My birthday, sadly.
Oh, that's right.
October 3rd. Yeah. I'll always remember because I got to share a birthday with a twin brother and Mean Girls. So
oh my God, that's so funny.
Rachel in our chat says, related to adaptations, have you seen some of the recent news about the Netflix Avatar series?
Yes. I've also been trying to avoid it because I just want to see the show and just try not to have any opinions of it until I see it.
Yeah, I've seen some things float around about like what the creative team have said about some of the choices that they're making in the show. And I'm like,
Like what? Like, wait, like what?
Sexism. They're like, Sokka's too sexist, so we're going to not have that anymore.
Yeah, they're like, we're going to, and I was like, okay. I mean, he goes through kind of a character journey, and that's sort of part of it, but sure, take that out. They kind of made some comments about, like, because this is Netflix and it's live action, we have to make it like less kiddie than the animated version. I was like, but everybody liked that animated version.
They made it more adult by casting Daniel Day Kim and then making him take his shirt off and showing 55 abs.
Well, have you? God bless him for that. But
there's some of the really funny, how like it was that late night skit where people would read mean tweets. Yeah. Well, they did it with Daniel Day Kim, but it was thirsty tweets. And it was people tweeting their reactions. And one of them cracks me up because he's reading the tweets. And one of the tweets is something along the lines of, well, that's it. He can have all 4 nations. I give it to him voluntarily. And Daniel Day Kim, deadpan, just looks at the camera and says, that's the point. That's why they cast me. So you'll give me your kingdoms. And I was like, and so he keeps playing into it. And he's like, yes, I'm here to mesmerize you so that I can take over your kingdom. He's like, see, Fire Nation isn't all that bad. We got abs. So he's like playing into it, but it's really funny.
Daniel Day Kim has been hot since forever, though. Like, yeah. Since back in Lost, and I'm sure even before. But I was like, yeah, when they cast him, I was like, all right.
I didn't even know he was in it.
Yeah.
What? He plays Fire Nation Zaddy. That's what
again,
the internet calls him now.
I've been trying to avoid any topics of it because, again, I'm just like, want to go into it because I already hate adaptations. I usually really, really hate adaptations. Yeah. They just retell the story. I'm like, I've seen it the first time. I don't need to see it the second time. So if I have to see news about something I've already seen, I'm like, I'm good. I'll literally just watch the show.
Yeah, he plays Ozai, as Rachel is reminding us.
Okay.
There you go.
What did I say? Did I say something different?
No,
he plays Ozai. He's not Zuko.
Yeah.
No, that would be weird.
No,
the ages would be very off.
Then they're trying to make him not Kitty.
Could you imagine if he was Zuko? He'd be like that Steve Buscemi gif of like, "Hello, fellow kids."
But yes, Rachel, we have heard things and we are excited.
We will be watching it. I think we're getting towards the tail end of our Mean Girls conversation. I think there was one other, but another question from Rachel, but and it was for Amy, and she's back. How was the book? Rachel did ask.
Rachel wanted to know, those of you who are Patreon listeners or have been following me on Instagram at all, I was very excited for the release of a book that I've been waiting for a long time. That's literally sitting here on my desk that I was reading when the girls joined for the recording.
You almost done?
Sarah J. Maas's. No, it's I'm about half.
How many pages are in this book, Amy?
833.
This welcome.
And I have read 473.
So you're halfway through.
I'm about halfway through. It's not bad at all. I actually took a couple days off work to quote read the book. It ended up being more of I really needed time off. Just to man, I've slept in. I've had good breakfasts.
Good.
I have
saw Mean Girls?
some relaxing time. I did see Mean Girls. The first day was literally me just going down, getting the book and doing laundry because the bookstore, Mysterious Galaxy Bookstore, shout out to San Diego's little indie bookstore, is 45-50 minutes south of me, not including traffic. So I went down, picked it up then. But it is quite good. I have made a couple reaction videos as I'm reading it for certain things. I will not spoil anything. If anyone is listening and you're a fan of Sarah J. Maas or you're reading House of Flame and Shadow, please message me on Instagram, Amy_HYP. But I swear, if you don't put spoilers, spoiler alert, I will find you.
She is only 470 pages in. Remember that when you talk to her.
I think I will be back. I will be done by tomorrow or Saturday. But definitely, I ended up reading a bulk of that yesterday, so I can put down apparently about 450 pages in a day.
That is very impressive. As somebody who's spent the last two-ish years reading exclusively 900-page books, once you go back to 400-page books, you realize how fast you can read them. I was like, right? Oh my God, am I almost done with this? This book isn't taking me 2 months.
Yeah, it's weird. No, but yeah, I'm enjoying it, and it has been really nice. A few days off, and I hope other people are enjoying it too. There's been some creative choices that I'm still worried about. But I haven't finished yet. So she's famous. She's infamous for her last 100 pages because no matter where you think the book is going, she's like, ha 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 ha, and changes everything. And she plans her books out years ahead of time. What is that even like? I can't even.
What's it like tomorrow?
Writing? I can't plan tomorrow either.
She doesn't write 800 pages. She writes 1,200 pages and then cuts.
And then has to cut it down. That's crazy.
I wonder what her day looks like.
A lot of writing, I'm sure.
Does she type quickly?
I hope
so. She's got kids.
They're typing?
She's got them typing.
Yes, her kid is the one doing the typing.
Writing up fairies for mommy.
She's also gorgeous. Her husband is gorgeous. And I was like, oh, that's where you get your inspiration. Got it. But no, it's been really good. Morgan asked me at the beginning she goes, so how's the smut?
How is it?
And I told her, I said we're mostly halfway through the book, and we have had limited smut action. So which is actually for this particular series not abnormal. Sorry, that's actually a bit of a spoiler. Apologies to everyone.
I don't think that's much of a spoiler, but also, you're the person you've been against You didn't say spoiler warning before you said that.
Yes.
I know. Anywho,
You're only 400
I very
pages
enjoyed
in.
the book. But yeah, good book series. If anyone wants to chat about it, message me on Instagram, _hip. I might actually create a bookstagram account.
You should.
Ooh,
I don't know why you haven't yet.
should.
I was just like kind of banking on like, okay, well, I like, this is me, I'm quirky and kind of that in real life. But then as I'm filming more content, I'm like, oh no, I'm a little extra book quirky.
Right.
There are people from my workplace don't need to see that. They don't high school, they don't need to see that.
Maybe I'll separate that out from my
market
real life.
this. And then like let me use that brand into the book talk world.
Book talk's big.
But yeah.
It is.
Mm-hmm. Book talk is big. But do you guys have anything else you want to bring up about Mean Girls?
No, I think we did. I'm glad we all got to see it. Yeah. Pretty much my Mean Girls thoughts.
I kind of wish that I know this our topic was the queerness of Mean Girls. I kind of wish they had made it a little more queer.
Yeah,
honestly.
that way that could have been a longer conversation because it was more of like it wasn't gay.
could have been gayer. Also would have been more of a differentiator from like the original version. You'd be like, oh, you remember the version that was gayer and had music.
I agree. Rachel said she is in the chat. She says she's number 293rd in line for A Court of Thorns and Roses on her libraries app. That's accurate.
You might need to buy that book.
You might need to break down and buy that.
Rachel's gonna get it in 55 years from now.
I was about to say Rachel's gonna get to read this book in like 15 years.
What's funny is that Stargot Geek did actually reach out to me on Instagram, and she was joking about the book, and she was like, yeah, I'm in the hundreds to get this current book that I'm reading right now. And then the next message the next day, they're like, yeah, they ordered 111 new copies.
Oh, wow.
I was like, what? Like, they're like, let's just add 100 copies of this to our library because they'll get checked out.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I love everything that people do with libraries, and I think libraries are awesome, and they have such inner workings that I will never understand.
Yeah,
it just seems
me neither.
You back in the day, and maybe still, you got to go to school to become a librarian.
You do.
Yeah,
it's
so
like
there's a lot of
specialized degree to be a librarian.
There's like a lot of numbers and stuff like that.
The Dewey Decimal System, baby.
The Dewey Decimal System.
That's probably still a thing.
I feel like that still exists.
Computers?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe.
What's it called? Not the Dewey Decimal System, the something catalog.
I'm sure there's a librarian that listens to this podcast. It's just like, guys,
we do need a legendary listener librarian.
We're trying to collect all different professions like Pokemon. So if you're a librarian and you listen to this, write us in legendaryladies@gmail.com. What's it like? Do you still have the Dewey Decimal System?
You can actually, I've learned that you can check library books out, but ebooks. So they'll actually lend out the ebook version of the book. And I'm like, how do you monitor that? Like, how do you...
it just disappears from your Kindle or your, e-reader device after, whatever amount of time. So like if you have like a 2-week rental, it just disappears from your Kindle after the 2 weeks.
That's kind of cool.
My husband's aunt was like telling me all about this because they have like a nice library that does that. And she's like, oh yeah, I rent all kinds of books on the Kindle. And I was like, that's pretty cool. I was like an old person being like, show me the technology. My God, how do you do that? You just hit the button?
You're like, in my day, books had paper in them.
There was a Dewey Decimal System.
Remember we had to learn how to do that? Like that was part of school. You had to learn how to go find books.
I don't think I had that. Or maybe I did. And I don't remember it, but I think my generation missed that. I don't think I really don't think I had to.
Late millennials didn't get
I was gonna ask you, Kat. I was like, is any of this ringing any bells, or was that over by the time you had it?
I just didn't go to the library that much. So in that regard, no. I remember getting a library card once and then just being like, all right. And then just never going back until college.
the internet was so much more developed when you were like growing up than like when we were in like grammar school, Amy. Like it was you were going to the library for sure in the 90s.
Yeah, we didn't need, well, the internet was slow when we were kids.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
we still had the dial up and all that. But I would say like middle school, especially high school, like I had my own laptop in high school. So that we had the desktop situation where like everyone in the family shares the desktop in middle school.
I distinctly remember doing reports in middle school through most of high school that were entirely book based.
Wow.
Like you could not do any, you were not allowed to do
you weren't allowed
online.
To. You had to get
because
the
they
book.
wanted you to learn how to use books.
We couldn't use Wikipedia, that's for sure.
We
got crucified for that. They're like, Wikipedia is not real.
No, that's been a constant in my whole life. Is that they're like, you cannot quote Wikipedia. You cannot put that in in your paper.
Yeah, you can. No, I feel like I'm always an interesting case of the millennial because I was smack in the middle. I get it. I got one foot in one area and the other foot in the other. So I did a lot of things you guys did, but not constantly. I still had a little bit of the internet. But I also had no internet.
We were talking about Mean Girls, and that was a very millennial. I had to think back and be like, when did Mean Girls come out? Was I like, how old was I?
I was in fourth grade. But I did see it. But I did see it when it came out. Like I saw it. My parents didn't really care what we saw. So
I really don't think that there's anything too bad in the original Mean Girls, to be honest.
No, I think they saw Lindsay Lohan. They're like the Parent Trap girl. But again, they didn't care. We watched horror movies. It really didn't matter. Like they did not care.
Were also very lax about that kind of stuff.
I would play like Call of Duty in 7th grade, Halo. They knew what I was playing.
Like, did you notice that this one did change? There were two big things they changed. They didn't, at one point, they dropped the word whore. And at another point from the original movie,
they took out some queer, like some, like,
they did modify some of the
homophobic
language.
stuff, yeah.
They did take out some of that. And then in the Burn book, the thing that she writes about Katie is that used to be, I think, Fugly Slut, and they changed it to Fugly Cow. So they did change some of the more sexist and homophobic language, which I didn't
think about
until right now. But they did. I remembered seeing that in the film, being like, oh, that's interesting. Because again, it's so iconic that changes like that stick with you. But I think that's going to wrap up our conversation. Do you guys have anything else you want to add about Mean Girls before we go quickly to just our Around the Tables here?
No, I think we're good. We will say we've actually planned our month now for our podcast. For the longest time, we're like, give us stuff, because we didn't have any plan. We were planning each episode, but now we have a pretty good set list for you guys. So
including Avatar.
Avatar's on that list.
I sadly won't be
the whole series.
I sadly won't be there for that episode, but don't think it's like other episodes where I'm like, I don't want to talk about Henry VIII.
I don't want to talk about your weird period drama.
This time I literally just couldn't be there. So no, in spirit, I would have wanted to be there, but all the other episodes I'll be on.
But we are definitely going to be talking about Avatar. We're going to be talking about Whiplash. So those of you with a Netflix subscription, we're going to get our good out of our Netflix.
Did it just
pop up on Netflix? Whiplash?
I think it's been on there for a while. I just mentioned it to Amy recently, and it's like, oh, that sounds interesting. And then Amy saw it again. It's like, oh, maybe we should watch that.
But it's popping up on my upper banner, so it must be getting some sort of traction. Something must have happened.
Oscar season,
definitely
Oscar season.
I hope it was me, because
that does control Amy's Netflix algorithm.
I do. I go in there, I sneak in and say Whiplash. I need to remind her about Whiplash. It's a great movie. It is legit one of my favorite movies of all time, so get ready for that. I did recently watch it with my friends. So we're doing Love is Blind. We're doing Has Been Hotel. None of us know what that's about, but people are talking about it.
We don't know. We're going to find out. We're going to discover it together.
And remember, you all can find us on Patreon, patreon.com/thelegendaryladies. If you join at our middle level, you actually get to join in the chat for free and listen live as we record. We're modifying our levels very shortly. That will also include the chat feature on the Patreon app. So there's going to be different chat rooms that you can join in and chat with us outside of normal recording hours. I might start a book chat that's just like Amy's book chat. Maybe Morgan and I will have like a history corner.
History corner would be fun.
I won't be part of that.
Talk about. Okay. Kat will not be there.
Kat won't be there.
No,
Kat
I'll be in a different corner.
About the AMC Stubbs corner. That's where Kat's gonna be.
Whoever wants to be there, I'm there with you. We'll talk about AMC Stubbs.
Kat sees like 90% of the new releases of every year. So that
is true.
Whenever I think about going to see a movie, I'm like, oh, I should ask Kat if it's any good.
And I usually have opinions on it. I usually do have good opinions on movies. So, if you guys want to know what movies to watch, I'm here for you. Well, we see some weird movies. Saw Night Swim. Don't see it. It was bad.
I have to say I love the premise of it so much because it's so funny. Which the premise of this movie is that it's an evil pool, and I just
get ready.
I just find that to be hilarious because like I feel like you could really avoid the problem by just not getting into the pool.
No, he loves his pool. That's one thing. That's something you're gonna learn. Is he loves the pool. He loves it to death, and he loves baseball. Those are two things. He loves baseball and pools. That's where the movie goes.
Because I feel like this is how a ghost could also kill me, though. Because if I had a house with the pool, I would use it no matter what. No matter how haunted it was, I would be in that pool.
It's not as fun as you think, because you think that's hysterical. They don't even lean into it.
Funny.
They don't even lean into it. They don't they talk about the pool enough, but not enough. They talk about baseball, but not enough. And it was so funny. The explanation of the whole film is like this wish of something. And we went to go see it because we heard the explanation was so stupid. And Marion in particular really wanted to see the explanation. We all hated this movie. She's like, this is a good time to go to the bathroom. All right, guys, I'm going to go. And the whole entire shit was gone. They explained how the pool works.
No. That's funny. Only reason for being there.
Yeah.
Does she not have the app? There's an app called, you know what it's called? I hate the name of the app. It's called Run Pee. And it's literally an app that breaks down movies and tells you when to run to the bathroom. And then it gives you a summary about what you have missed. So it tells you, like, in Batman The Dark Knight, you're going to, like, it tells you opportune bathroom moments. It tells you like backup bathroom moments.
Wow.
And it tells you like this, and then it literally has do not leave moments. Like it's actually it's a really cool app. I haven't been to theaters enough to use it. I think it's called Run, P.
That's amazing.
That Run,
because
P.
Hold on. I have one of the world's smallest bladders, and this is like a continuous problem for me in movies. I'll never forget.
Run P.
I'll never forget going to see the last Lord of the Rings movie in the theater and desperately having to go to the bathroom at the end of it. And all those fake endings, those fake out endings, I was like in tears. I was like, if this movie doesn't end, I swear to God.
See, it tells you minutes until the next pee time. It breaks down how long you have. So at 7, because you click start. Right, you click start at the same time the film starts, and it says like at 17:05 minutes, you have 3 minutes and 40 seconds for this scene. And Jane, it's like from Thor. This says Jane says, "I will figure this out by myself." Okay, run, go pee. And then it says about this pee time. Most of this pee time is a reenactment of a scene from the previous Thor movie by performers. It's very easy to summarize.
They do new ones too. They have.
Sounds like
I feel like that's the whole point, right? Is that
I'll be honest though. The last time I downloaded this app, this was about 5 months ago. It had a nearly 5-star rating, and now it's at 3.9. So I don't know if that's just glitches in the system. Oh, then it must just be Android issues.
Yeah, so I see 4.6 for. I'm looking now. I want to really know if the new movies are.
Oh yeah, wait. Let's look up Mean Girls.
Oh yeah.
Hashtag no sponsor.
We are not. If
you could sponsor us.
If Run P wants to sponsor us, though, we are.
I will go see more movies.
They do. They have. They have all the new movies here.
Okay. Well, what are Mean Girls? When does it say to go pee?
All right. Let's see. Mean Girls says. And they have a people's poll.
The people's poll.
View pee times. Oh man, I don't know how to read this. This is crazy.
Is so funny.
I have 3 P times. All are okay, but the middle one's the best.
Yeah,
so funny.
view P times. This is incredible.
I love that she says I had 3 P times, and this is the best time. This is the best one.
Oh my God! Somebody is like, the time to go. Gretchen hands Katie the pink heels and starts singing in the closet. They're like, just skip Gretchen's song. And honestly, I wouldn't disagree with that. It affects the movie in no way.
That is so funny. Thank you, Amy, for blessing. I downloaded it. I'm going to use it. I gotta learn how to read it because it looks a little confusing. But
I wonder if there's like professional input and then audience input. I bet they have to get enough input in to make like consistent ones. Because I'm sure maybe they do. Maybe they do have someone whose job is to go and watch movies and decide what scenes can be skipped.
I think so because there's a movie review person who did it, and then there's a people's poll. So I'm guessing whoever
that's funny.
Jill is the person who's able to say this is the P times. But
I wonder if we could get sponsored for this. Like, what if
they already got what they wanted from us?
The legend, right? Well, like,
20 minutes. Gave them 20 minutes on Run P.
Pay
me to go watch the movie and decide what's skippable, and then I'll write a summary
for them. You want to work for Run P?
I would work for them for sure.
That sounds great. If you
want,
let me see the movie, yeah. Even just the movie for free. Great.
Yeah, you got to sit through it all. Morgan, especially you just said you had a small bladder.
Oh, yeah.
You got to not go to the bathroom.
That's true.
Unless you send me a screener, in which case I can pause it on my computer because I got to be able to write the summary.
I don't know if Run P has this power.
I don't think they do.
You tell us about it.
I don't think they do, but
I don't know. But Run P, tell us more.
Run P. We're open to sponsorships.
We open up our Instagram tomorrow and they're like, "Hi, we heard you were looking for us."
I run towards your direction. Yeah,
we're gonna at them. We're gonna at them so they know how much we love them now.
We should take one of these clips and we'll add it at Run.
Amazing.
All right, so that's going to wrap up our episode. Let's quick go around the table, see what everybody's doing. Morgan, what are you up to right now? Where can people find you online, and what other podcasts are you recording?
Sure, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Mojotastic, and you can also find me as a co-host on Supergirl Radio, where it was just announced who the new DCEU Supergirl is going to be. She's Millie Alcock from House of the Dragon. So my co-host Rebecca and I, we talked about the casting news this week. So if you want to dive in, do a deep dive into the casting news, we have that episode available. And then next week, we're actually planning on doing our own pilot pod. We're going to watch the first episode of House of the Dragon because that's kind of what she's best known for. I obviously have watched Game of Thrones. Rebecca has no Game of Thrones knowledge. And she was like, this is weird. So it's going to be a fun one, I think.
Mm-hmm. She will have a lot of knowledge by the end of the podcast, I'm sure.
I'm going to be like, I'm going to get the houses up. I'm going to like draw her charts and stuff. PowerPoint presentation, the Targaryens and the Starks.
The dragons and the wolves. All right, Kat, what are you up to? You, I don't know, got a Kickstarter going on or something?
There was one that ended, but don't worry, on Monday there's a new one. That's how crazy we are.
Don't worry, there will be another one.
There's another one, and this is a follow-up to Beast and Snow. So we have Nightmare in Wonderland. So it's a Sleeping Beauty, Alice in Wonderland, childhood friends turned lovers turned ex-lovers story. So it's a lot of fun. If you liked Beast and Snow, you don't necessarily have to read this book, but it's all connected. It's all in the same universe. So who knew I'd be building universes? But you know,
of storybook characters of all things.
I know, but I do it with a
realistically fairy tale storytelling characters.
No,
like
you could do anything.
I would not have pinned this 10 years ago.
Either. That's where my talents reach. Is I just I'll surprise you. But no, it's a lot of fun and we're really excited about it. So go check it out.
Have we been recording together for 10 years?
I wouldn't be surprised because the Legends of Tomorrow lasted a long time. That's crazy.
That can't be right. Okay,
I was gonna say that can't be right.
Years. But does that mean 8 years?
8 years is still a long time.
That's so long.
That's still a long time. That's wild.
That is crazy.
That's so cool. That's so cool. All right. And you guys can find me on Instagram, Amy_hip. I might start a Bookstagram. If you guys have any ideas for a name, I was thinking like Hip Books, HYP Books.
That's fun.
That is kind of fun. Like
I like that
books.
A lot.
It's hard to say. Hip Books.
Like, remember remember hit clips? Or I think they were called hit clips. They were like those little, maybe this is just a me generation thing, but there was these little square things and you put a little chip in it and then you listen to 30 seconds of a song and you're like, that's my hit clip. You don't remember this.
I have no knowledge of this.
All right, hold on. Let me say hit clips. Here it is. I found it. They're called hit clips. I'm gonna screen share if you're listening to the podcast. I'm sorry. Look, it was a little machine and you put your little cassette in it.
I've seen these, but there was no way my mother was ever gonna buy that she wouldn't even get us a Tamagotchi.
You didn't have a Tamagotchi?
I
killed so many of them.
The other day at the vet clinic, this girl who I'm working with, my coworker, who is 3 to 4 years older than me, she goes, "Oh no, I forgot to feed him." And I'm like, "Oh God, we're at the vet clinic. Like, what animal did you forget to feed?"
Yeah,
it was her Tamagotchi. It was her.
They're coming back.
Her children's Tamagotchi. Her own Tamagotchi.
Wait, is this her original Tamagotchi?
I don't know.
Has she kept this?
That would be cool.
You have to find out. If she's kept this thing alive for like 30 years.
I think they came back. I'm pretty sure they came back, and I'm hoping that's the reason.
My headcanon is she's had this thing alive for 25 to 30 years.
Oh, I love that.
She's winning a record.
Cool. That sounds like the start of an indie film.
I hope there's someone out there that got it from the beginning and they're still feeding that.
I hope so too. I'm going to Google this later, but I hope so. I know that there is somebody out there who's just that dedicated.
There's a documentary about that for sure.
Is there really?
There should be. There's
I was excited. I was going to put it on watching this again.
Let's say currently the world record for keeping an original 1996 and 1997 Tamagotchi alive is 89 days.
That's it?
Oh.
We're thinking 30 years?
That's crazy.
That's sad. Guys, if you didn't learn anything here, life is short.
That's like 3 months.
Yeah.
Tell your coworker it's okay. Like, that Tamagotchi can't last over 3 months anyway.
So it gets harder, I'm guessing.
I get it's scaling up like a video game.
It gets harder and harder.
You can't get past 89.
All right, so I think that's going to wrap it up. I want to get back to my book. This Mean Girls has been a great little break, but it's only 9:18 p.m. I can read for at least another few hours. I have hours of reading ahead of me. Thank you all so much for joining us. We really appreciate you. Again, you can find us on Twitter, legends_podcast. You can find us on Instagram, The Legendary Ladies, Gmail, thelegendaryladies@gmail.com, TikTok, The Legendary Ladies, website, thelegendaryladies.com, and patreon.com/ you guessed it, The Legendary Ladies.
And
Thank you so much for joining us.
You can always watch us record if you are a more visual person. We put our videos up at youtube.com/ The Legendary Ladies too. So
we're really good with that branding.
We try.
we got it right finally.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful week. We'll see you next week. Thanks for sticking around and stay legendary.